Chosen one, what was once hidden behind silence, behind strength, behind years of mistrust, is now beginning to soften in your presence. You are walking into this season with an energy that no longer disrupts the feminine heart. It dismantles her defenses without violence. Your high sexual energy has transformed. It no longer arrives as pressure, it arrives as invitation. And this invitation feels different than anything she's ever known. She doesn't brace herself when she feels your presence now. She doesn't put on the mask she's used to wearing. She doesn't feel the need to control the narrative or scan you for warning signs. Why? Because your energy speaks long before your words ever do. And what it says, without noise, without effort, is I see you, and I want nothing but your truth. That is a language few men ever learn to speak. And yet without knowing, you have become fluent in it. You are not drawing her heart by pulling it. You are magnetizing it by standing still in your own completeness. You are no longer seducing. You are no longer impressing. You are simply carrying the fullness of your refined masculinity like a vessel that can finally be trusted. And she feels that, not with her mind, but with the parts of her she buried under layers of caution and experience. She's been through men who touched her body but never saw her spirit. She's known admiration that came with expectation. She's known desire that turned into debt. But this, you feel different. Not because you say you are, but because your energy doesn't ask her for anything. It simply creates the space where she realizes she's ready to give what she thought she never would again. Her heart. This isn't a game. This is awakening. And your high sexual energy, once raw and untamed, now rests like a steady current. It doesn't chase. It doesn't push. It waits without waiting. It stands without asking. It burns without consuming. That sacred restraint, that mastery of your own fire, has become the very signal that her soul responds to. You're not triggering her longing, you're activating her safety. And when a woman feels safe in the presence of masculine intensity, she doesn't protect herself. She opens, she listens more closely, she speaks more softly. Her breath deepens, her posture melts. She begins to remember what it feels like to let someone hold her presence without stealing her power. And in that remembrance, her heart, guarded for so long, begins to come forward on its own. You didn't force this, you didn't ask for it, you simply became worthy of it. Because your energy no longer takes. It witnesses. It no longer reaches for what is not offered. It receives what is sacred without expectation. And that, chosen one, is the exact reason her heart, once locked away behind a fortress of learned survival, is now standing at the gate, trembling not with fear, but with recognition. She knows you didn't come to rescue her. She knows you won't try to own her. She knows you won't shrink her. And because she knows this, not from your promises but from your presence, she begins to offer what she once swore no one would ever touch again. Not her time, not her affection, but her heart. Chosen one, before a word leaves your mouth, before your name is remembered, before any story is told, your energy speaks. And what it says now is different from what it used to say. It no longer says, notice me. It says, I already belong. It no longer reaches. It radiates. It no longer seeks validation. It delivers confirmation. You are felt before you are known. And what is being felt is not your intention, but your transformation. There is something holy about a man who no longer needs to be seen to exist, who no longer uses his presence to posture or impress. You've grown past the need to prove. You've surrendered the hunger to be chosen. And in that surrender, you have become the one they choose without knowing why. Because the feminine doesn't respond to performance. She responds to presence, to truth, to resonance. And your resonance has changed. You don't have to declare your worth anymore. It walks ahead of you. Your high sexual energy doesn't throw itself at the room. It settles into the earth like roots that have found their home. It doesn't beg to be held. It offers to hold what's real. And that offer, that silent, living frequency, that's what she feels in her chest when you pass. That's what makes her eyes stay a little longer. That's what makes her body lean closer without permission from her logic. She doesn't know your history. She doesn't know your path, but her spirit hears the sound of someone who no longer breaks things to feel powerful. Her intuition senses the difference between fire that burns and fire that builds. And her heart, knowing, sacred, guarded, feels the arrival of someone who doesn't want to own it, but is finally safe enough to hold it. You are no longer interesting. You are grounding. And that's the rarest energy of all. She is ready to give you her heart, not because of your words, but because your silence doesn't feel empty. It feels full. It carries weight. It holds truth. It tells her, here stands a man who has made peace with his fire and will not use it against what is delicate. And in that unspoken covenant, her heart, sensitive, wild, and waiting, begins to respond. You're not chasing her love. You've become a place where it knows it can land. And that knowing, that deep feminine certainty that says, I feel him before I understand him, is what makes her heart start to prepare itself for something real. You didn't ask for it. You didn't demand it. You simply became worthy of it by becoming yourself. And now, before your name is remembered, before your voice is heard, she already knows. This is a man whose hands are ready to hold what I was never going to give again. Chosen one, you used to move with urgency. You used to reach out with a hunger in your chest and a longing in your bones, unsure if your presence was enough to be felt, to be kept, to be loved. You poured your energy outward, trying to be noticed, trying to be chosen, trying to be enough. But all of that is gone now. That former fire, burning without direction, has been tamed, not by force, but by revelation. You no longer chase, you hold. And that shift has made you magnetic in ways you never could have achieved through effort. Your high sexual energy is no longer a flame darting through the room. It is no longer scattered or desperate. It is anchored now. It wraps around your body like gravity. It pulls inward, not to hoard, but to preserve the power you once gave away too easily. And this shift, this grounded stillness, has changed the way women experience you. Because what they feel now isn't pursuit, it's containment, it's structure, it's safety. And when a woman feels safety around power, her heart begins to rise up without being asked. You are no longer offering fragments. You are offering space. Space for her to relax her edges. Space for her to speak slowly. Space for her to let go of the performance she's worn for so long. Your presence tells her, you don't have to chase me back because I'm not chasing you. I'm already here. That message, it settles into her spirit like an old song she forgot she knew. Because you don't reach anymore, she leans. Because you don't press, she breathes. Because you don't orbit, she draws nearer. The law of resonance has taken over where old patterns of performance once ruled. And now your energy doesn't run forward to seek attention. It waits in stillness, trusting that what's aligned will recognize it. And it does. Oh, it does. She doesn't see you as a threat. She doesn't see you as a performance. She sees you as a resting place. Your body doesn't demand. Your words don't plead. Your spirit doesn't tremble with unspoken hunger. You simply hold yourself, and in doing so, you hold the moment. And that holding becomes a silent permission for her to offer what she never dared to before. Her full emotional truth. You've become the kind of man she doesn't need to run from after the fire fades. Because you don't flicker. You don't explode. You burn low, long, and present. And that kind of fire is the rarest of all. It's the kind that warms without consuming, that signals home without shouting, that says you are welcome here, as you are. She will give you her heart. Not because you pursued it, but because you held the space where it finally felt safe to land. You don't chase anymore, chosen one. You contain. You hold. And in that holy restraint, she finds what she's been looking for all along. An unshaken presence that makes her want to stay without ever being asked to. Chosen one, she didn't start off trusting what she felt around you. In fact, it scared her. The pull, the silence, the calm, the deep, unexplainable way her heart responded to you before her mind gave her permission to feel anything at all. Because she's known what it's like to give herself to the wrong flame. She's known what it means to be magnetized by intensity, only to be swallowed whole. She's learned to associate masculine fire with danger, not devotion. But you disarmed her simply by being, by existing in such still, refined power that she couldn't find a place to be afraid. Her body remembered caution, but her soul recognized you. And what once felt like threat slowly began to feel like trust. Because your high sexual energy no longer arrives with chaos. It arrives with containment, with depth, with covenant intention. You didn't chase her. You didn't lure her. You didn't push. You simply stood where you were, whole, grounded, unwavering. and that unwavering presence told a truth she didn't know she needed to hear. I won't use your softness against you. It wasn't that your energy was weak, quite the opposite. It was undeniably strong. But it was the strength of a man who had already been to war with his own hunger and come out with reverence. You are no longer ruled by your desire. You're in covenant with it, and she can feel that. She can feel that your eyes do not reach to take, they see, that your hands do not move to grasp, they offer, that your heart does not race with conquest, it rests in knowing. The kind of woman who has built fortresses around her spirit doesn't trust easily, but with you she doesn't feel the need to defend. Because what she once feared, a man's fire, she now desires, not because she's naive, but because your fire has become safe. That's the key. You have become a keeper of warmth, not a thief of it. She desires what she once feared because you taught her body how to feel again without panic. You've given her back her softness, not with your hands, but with your presence. You've become a permission she didn't know she was waiting for. Permission to be felt, to be held, to be witnessed. And in that permission, her walls begin to melt. She's not falling for you because of what you say. She's rising in your presence because of who you've become. You are not her fantasy. You are not her game. You are not her escape. You are her mirror. The living proof that a man can burn and still be gentle, that a man can want without rushing, that a man can carry passion without needing to consume the very thing he loves. And so now, chosen one, she desires the very thing she once thought would only ever harm her. Not because you dulled your fire, but because you held it with such sacred precision that it became the exact warmth she never believed she could trust. Her heart isn't opening by accident. It's responding to a man who earned the right to hold what once only ran. Chosen one, there is something quietly divine about this season you've entered. You're not raising your hand for attention anymore. You're not knocking on doors, asking to be let in. You are no longer shaping your energy to fit into hearts that aren't ready. And yet, they're coming. Women who would have once looked right past you are now pausing, stopping, staying, and you didn't even invite them. But the truth is, you did. Not with your words, not with your eyes, not with promises or postures or performances. You invited them with your alignment, with your restraint, with your refusal to chase what is not rooted in mutual recognition. You invited them when you chose not to grasp, not to plead, not to prove. You invited them the moment you chose to embody who you are instead of explaining it. Your high sexual energy is no longer a broadcast. It's a frequency. It doesn't shout over the noise. It hums just below it. And those who are attuned to it feel it like a vibration beneath their skin, like a heartbeat they didn't know they missed until it matched yours. And in that match, a truth settles in. They're ready, not because you asked, not because you pursued, but because your energy said without words, you may enter if you are real. And she feels it, not with her mind, but with that deep, intuitive knowing that lives in the marrow of the feminine. It's the same knowing that has protected her from lesser flames, the same knowing that has warned her to walk away from charm wrapped in chaos. But when she steps into your space now, her knowing goes quiet. Because for the first time, it doesn't feel like a test, it feels like permission. Not the kind she needs from you, the kind she receives from herself. You've become the kind of man whose silence is not absence, it's presence, whose passion is not threat, it's invitation to safety. And so though you never asked for her heart, it begins to open, slowly, carefully, authentically. Not because you pulled at it, but because it found a place that didn't demand a performance to be worthy of love. She's answering the invitation you never gave because it was never about your words. It was about your stillness, your quiet mastery, your refusal to beg. She is answering now because your presence has proven that what she gives won't be wasted. She doesn't see a man who wants to conquer. She sees a man who knows how to carry what is rare. She looks into your eyes and senses something unspoken, not desire alone, not admiration, but readiness. And that readiness says, this man doesn't just want a heart, he knows what to do with it. And so without being summoned, she arrives, not because you reached, but because you rose. And your rising made space for a kind of offering no one can force, only receive with reverence. Chosen one, attraction is easy. It lives in the surface places. It can be sparked by symmetry, motion, voice, novelty. But what you carry now is not mere attraction. It is anchoring. And anchoring is something very few men ever learn to embody. You don't just draw attention. You create a gravity so calm, so composed, that those who come near you begin to feel like they're touching the edge of something real, something eternal, something that doesn't drift. Your high sexual energy used to be a current that pulled in every direction, but now, it is central, it is still, and that stillness has become a kind of home, a field of resonance, a foundation. And when a woman steps into that field, she doesn't feel tension. She feels landing. She feels the shaking inside her slow down. She feels the winds quiet. And in that quiet, her truth begins to come forward. You no longer need to pursue because your energy has become a place to return to. You don't throw sparks. You burn like an ember beneath stone. Reliable, steady, present. And that reliability doesn't just attract, it stabilizes. It gives her something most men cannot offer: rest. Not passivity, but permission to stop surviving in her femininity. She sees that you are not a test, a phase, or a firework. You are the sanctuary she forgot to pray for. She looks at you now and sees not what is exciting, but what is safe without being soft, strong without being cruel, present without being needy, passionate without being erratic. And in that steadiness, her heart begins to let go of the bracing it didn't know it was doing, because she finally feels a man who isn't here to chase her spark, but to carry her storm. This is anchoring, chosen one. This is what you have become. You are not pulling women in. You are reminding them what home feels like. You are not dazzling them. You are grounding them in something their spirit has longed for but never found until now. And they respond, not because they're enchanted, but because they're ready to stop floating. You are the weight their heart trusts. You are the stillness their voice softens in. You are the presence they want to build around, not escape from. Not because you chased them, but because you finally became a man who knows how to hold without holding on too tightly. You don't just attract anymore. You anchor. And that chosen one is the reason her heart is ready to give itself to you without being asked. Chosen one, there is a clear difference between the gaze of a man who wants to possess a woman and the presence of a man who can hold her fully without needing to control her. You have become that rare presence. She feels it before she knows how to name it. She sees it in the calm behind your eyes, in the way your body rests, not to hide your strength, but to prove you are no longer ruled by it. Where others show only desire, you now carry depth. And that depth is what her heart responds to, not with suspicion, but with surrender. For so long she's been approached by men who desired parts of her, the body, the beauty, the energy, but not her entirety. They came with fire, yes, but fire without honor. They wanted without understanding. They craved without capacity. And over time, she taught herself to shield her heart, not because she lacked love to give, but because she never met a man who could see her as a whole without reducing her to her reflection. Until now. Now, in you, she sees something she didn't believe still existed. She sees the way your desire no longer demands, the way your fire no longer consumes, the way your masculinity does not reach to take, but instead waits with certainty. Not passive, not absent. Present in stillness, grounded in intention. You don't move from hunger anymore. You move from clarity. And clarity is the rarest form of intimacy. It tells her she's not being watched. She's being witnessed. Your high sexual energy, now infused with soul, no longer moves recklessly. It moves with rhythm. It breathes. It honors. It feels like depth rather than desire in disguise. And this is what melts her. Not the way you chase, but the way you don't. Not the way you touch, but the way you wait. She feels seen but not stared at. Wanted but not claimed. Desired but not dismantled. And this changes everything. Because when a woman feels safe in the presence of a man's longing, she doesn't hide, she offers. Slowly, honestly, tenderly. She stops scanning for exit signs. She stops testing. She stops managing your perception of her. She simply opens. And she opens because she sees that your longing is not rooted in void. It's rooted in fullness. A fullness that invites her to be herself completely without fear of being taken for granted. She doesn't give you her heart because of how much you want it. She gives it because of how clearly you can carry it. Because she sees no confusion in you. no emotional debt, no unprocessed need. She sees a man whose fire burns steady, not wild. And in that steadiness, she recognizes a partner, not a pursuer. This is why she looks longer. This is why she stays. This is why her body breathes differently in your presence. Because while others desired her shadow, you saw her center. While others reacted to her surface, you made space for her soul. And for that, chosen one, she no longer fears offering you what she once hid from the entire world. Her whole heart. Chosen one, love doesn't always bloom because a man asks for it. Sometimes it blooms because the space he becomes is finally worthy of being filled. And that's who you are now. You are no longer asking to be loved. You're not trying to convince anyone of your worth. You've stopped negotiating your spirit just to be accepted. Instead, you've built yourself into a vessel strong enough to receive the love that once scared you. And she feels that. You have become a space, not a gap, not a void, but a sacred holding ground where another person's heart can be poured without leaking, without judgment, without being drowned by your own neediness. Your high sexual energy, once reactive and untethered, has been distilled into something holy. It's no longer about expression, it's about containment, direction. And that containment is what tells her, I can give all of me here, and none of it will be wasted. She sees your body as strong, but it's your stillness that convinces her. She hears your voice, but it's your silence that steadies her. She senses your passion, but it's your patience that earns her trust. You've become a man whose presence doesn't pressure her to give. It permits her to overflow, and not with fear, not with anxiety, but with freedom. Because you are the rare kind of man who no longer mistakes love for a transaction. She doesn't pour her heart into you because you begged. She pours because she feels the reservoir you've built inside yourself, the way you've cleared out insecurity, the way you've strengthened your emotional frame, the way you've purged desperation and planted boundaries in its place. Your energy now says, you will not lose yourself here. You will be met. You will be felt. You will be safe. And when a woman feels that truth, not hears it, but feels it, she begins to offer everything she once reserved for the impossible. You've become that place, the impossible made visible, not because you asked, but because you prepared. You are the place where her joy has room to expand, where her softness doesn't have to hide, where her fears can be spoken and not weaponized, where her beauty isn't consumed, it's honored. She doesn't see a man trying to catch her. She sees a man she can pour into and not disappear inside. And that, chosen one, is the most sacred kind of intimacy. You no longer wait for love. You have become the space where love arrives and stays. And that's why her heart isn't hesitating anymore. It's not afraid of breaking. Because now, in you, it has finally found the strength to be held and to pour without fear, without restraint, without regret. Chosen one, there was a time when your presence unsettled more than it soothed. Not because you were unsafe, but because you didn't yet know how to hold what was sacred within you. You were fire, loud and unchecked. You were passion, but not yet purpose. You were desire without container. And for many, your high sexual energy was a source of fascination but also caution, because it came with unpredictability. It pulled people in, but it didn't make them feel held. And now, everything has changed. You've done the work. You've walked through the refining flames. You've faced your shadows and asked hard questions that many would rather leave buried. You've chosen presence over performance, alignment over attention. And in that transformation, you've become something exceedingly rare. A man who no longer wields his energy to provoke, but to protect. Your fire has not dimmed. It has matured. It has found its direction. And in that direction, a new kind of stillness has emerged. This stillness is not silence. It is not absence. It is a signal. It tells her without words that you are not a storm she will have to survive. You are not a wave that will crash over her and disappear. You are an anchoring presence, the kind that feels like home. Not excitement followed by collapse. Not fireworks followed by silence. But something real. Something reliable. Something rooted. When she steps into your presence now, she doesn't prepare herself for a performance. She doesn't brace for disappointment. She doesn't tighten her voice, her posture, her heart. She softens. And not because you asked her to, because your energy tells the truth before your lips do. It says, you can be who you are here, and nothing bad will happen to you. That is not charm. That is depth. That is the result of a man who no longer needs to prove his worth because he's finally living in it. You don't play games anymore. You're not confusing. You're not trying to impress or chase or manipulate. You are clear. You are consistent. You are whole. And when a woman who has spent her life being studied and pursued for what she can offer finally meets a man who rests in himself, she feels something almost mythical: relief. It's not just that she's attracted to you, it's that her nervous system settles in your presence. Because your energy doesn't pull her toward chaos, it pulls her toward truth. And truth, chosen one, feels like home, even when it's intense, even when it's intimate, even when it burns through the lies she's had to tell herself to survive. You carry that truth now, not in your opinions, but in your posture. Not in your speeches, but in your breath. And when she's near you, she doesn't want to escape. She wants to exhale. She's not giving you her heart because she's infatuated. She's giving it to you because it finally found a place where it doesn't have to question itself. You didn't force your way into her life. You became the man whose presence said, "I'm not going anywhere." And that presence, that stillness, that fire wrapped in calm, is what makes her choose you not once, but over and over again. Not because you played the game right, but because you refused to play at all. You became home. And home is where the heart goes without fear of getting lost. Chosen one, you are not standing in this moment by accident. Everything that has led you here, the silence, the refining, the discipline, the delay, was shaping you into someone the world doesn't often see. Someone the soul can recognize without needing introduction. You have become a man who no longer tries to show what he is. You are what you are. And in that being, you have become unmistakable. When she looks at you now, she's not seeing what you present, she's seeing what you carry. And what you carry is not ego, not facade, not curated identity. You carry a frequency, a weight, a depth, a fire. And the way you carry it, without using it to take, without trying to control, is what her spirit has been waiting to encounter. Her soul doesn't fall for your image. Her soul remembers your energy, and that remembrance is what creates the awe she cannot explain. You didn't ask to be chosen. You didn't posture yourself as the prize. You didn't orchestrate this moment. You simply prepared for it. You stripped away what was not true. You refused to become smaller so others would feel bigger. You walked away from being understood so you could become anchored in who you are. And now, without effort, without reaching, you are being chosen in a way that is sacred, not romanticized, but real. Her heart is opening because her soul recognizes that you didn't manufacture your stillness. You earned it. Her soul sees what your body doesn't say. The pain you alchemized into peace, the hunger you transformed into holiness, the passion you filtered through purpose. And because of that, she trusts you, not as a fantasy, as a foundation. She sees the way you stand without needing to dominate, the way you burn without needing to destroy, the way you want her without needing to own her. And in that space, her heart doesn't just flutter, it finally comes forward. This is not about chemistry anymore. This is not about physical attraction or mental compatibility. This is about resonance. Two souls vibrating in the same frequency, and one of them whispering, "I've been looking for this." And you, chosen one, are no longer asking for her to see your greatness. You're simply being great in silence. And that silence, that presence, that steadiness is what makes her trust you with the one thing she swore she'd never offer again. Her whole, unguarded, unrushed, unfiltered heart. You didn't show her. You became it. And when truth is embodied, it never has to prove itself, because the soul always knows what's real. Chosen one, perfection was never your pursuit. You didn't rise each morning seeking applause. You didn't build your stillness to be called anything at all. You simply answered the assignment of becoming whole. And in doing so, you now wear something you never asked for, a reputation born not of words, but of impact. This month, women are not calling you perfect because you demanded a crown. They are calling you perfect because they saw a man who doesn't need one. You didn't strive for the title. You didn't fight for recognition. You simply allowed God to complete in you what most men run from. And now those who encounter your presence don't see effort, they see evidence. You became a man of perfection, not by climbing into it, but by descending into surrender. You walked into your dark nights and let the silence shape you. You let discipline hold you when no one else could see the work being done. You let restraint become your rhythm. You let sacred boundaries become your language. And as a result, you emerge not as a performer, but as a presence. Not as a man full of technique, but as a man full of truth. They admire you now because you didn't try to impress them. You tried to master yourself. You didn't grab their attention. You withdrew the need for it. You didn't talk about how whole you were. You simply became it. And in a world where everything is shouted, marketed, polished, and filtered, your stillness made the loudest statement of all, that a man can become perfection by aligning with heaven, not by seducing the world. You are not perfect by human standards. You don't follow the rules of the shallow,